Hello and welcome back to another video. This one is about the word to. To start, or for starts as they say, the aim of my Insider English ebook is to provide a more in-depth analysis of how English works and to dispel current illusionary or superficial and all too often linguistically implausible explanations of English which pervade the net and mainstream curricula virally. Grammarians will matter-of-factly say that to is either a preposition or an infinitive marker. Labeling really only helps archetypal minds stuck in a world of terminology and rules. Semantically, to is simply a more concise way of saying either towards or in order to, so as to. And what few know is that to serves to replace a conditional, either no choice, else free will, or only in a specific circumstance. Its function, when at the head of a sentence, is seen as an instruction. To use it, twist the seal off. Consider, to laugh loudly in public is undesirable. In effect, it is less effective than saying a loud laugh in public is undesirable, as the context calls for a nominal. Laughing loudly in public is undesirable, with no conditions or without exception. Consider, the thing to do is to call him. The first to replaces if I were you and appropriate or considerate, and the second to would be. So the thing to do, if I were you, is or would be to call him. It would be the thing to do if you called him in this circumstance. Now let's consider, she gave me a book to read on the train. If we replaced read with a more lengthy phrase, she gave me a book to keep me busy while traveling on the train. We see how read serves to condense. And it's the same thing as saying that I might read. So she gave me a book that I might read on the train. And modals might also involve conditionals. We can now begin to understand why English natives, UK more so perhaps, use to with some preference verbs. I like to read in the evening instead of I like reading. Both are possible, but don't serve the same function. Why? Because to serves to replace I like reading when it is evening time, as only when in that condition, whereas I like reading in the evening is every evening in general. Nowadays, for to side by side is of course no longer common. Only rarely is it found in poetic stanzas. As you can see here, some of them are songs, some are plays and poetry. Today, learners have difficulty knowing when to use to and when to use for. Both to with verbs and for with noun phrases or nominals help to simplify statements. Use this to cut it with, where to serves to express for the purpose of obtaining a desired result in a given circumstance. Compare, use this tool for cooking with, where for means to produce something at some stage for a general purpose. Help me to clean up is a plea or a command directly to me, the speaker, in achieving a desired result. Here too is a resultative expletive that may also be left out. So you could say, help clean up, will you? Where up means to completion or in haste with the tempo. Likewise, bare infinitive is but a fancy term to mean to is not needed. Compare, go and wash up, please. Alternatively, will you go to wash up the dishes? Or simply, concisely, go wash up. Consider, I thought to write to Betty. The first to is the intent, and the second addresses the person, the object, desired addressee. So-called infinitive is nonsense in English unless we use to for the purpose of clarifying that we are suggesting a verb rather than a noun, as dictionaries often will do. If we were to consider that it might serve to express the hypothetical or conditional mood, if not eventuality, then it would make sense to say something like, I thought to write, which means, or what if I had written? Contrast this with the resultative, I thought about writing to Betty directly. This is past contemplation for Betty to receive the message. According to the Collins Dictionary, to is a preposition in all cases but one. So when I say pull the door to, it's listed as an adverb, except actually even that could be arguably ellipsis of pull the door to a closed position. Or how about in such a way that the door be fully closed, where be expresses the subjunctive mood. Or then a conditional, if you would kindly push the door to, where would is simply a case of backshifting. Either way, both statements are a command. Imperative is implicit with could you. Besides, calling something an adverb is pointless since there are no less than 9 types. The resultative, interestingly, can be expressed with an adjective. Hold the door open. She hammered the metal flat, where to is forging something. So compare, he smashed the vase to smithereens. There it's more obvious what the to functions as the result. They found the man guilty is a simplification of they found the man to be guilty. Now, it should be more apparent that to involves changing towards a different state. It acts as a driver for change. It is intentive. This is also why to included with verbs, he's going to go to Ottawa to see about finding work. Although we can argue that each to serves a different function, we will usually brush aside the first function and call it infinitive to, instead of seeing that it is the driver, the motivation. Be going to expresses ambition and intent, where going in expresses the emotive, often pronounced gonna. Compare I love cooking with I love to cook. There lies a difference, explicit meaning of to. It means only in a given circumstance, plus for achieving a desired result, where to justifies the emphatic love. I love to cook. Compare this with enjoy. This is a preference verb again, but we won't say I enjoy to cook, only I enjoy cooking. Well, no, enjoy is not an expletive, and whereas love is. Why wait for linguists to tell you what it should be called, though? The affixed ing in I love cooking puts weight on the activity while playing down an expletive preference verb, like love or loathe for that matter. To serves as simplification. For instance, in the event that plus subject. Conditional or subjunctive mood, replacing another prepositional phrase, which brings us to simplification. Take the example, she gave me a book to read on the train. The infinitive, so-called, is the verb read, but not to. It can mean which I might read. Certainly no one would be expected to question whether the book was to be read in order to travel on the train. So what is the point? Well, although to indicates simplification of in order to or so as to, in most cases the concept of modifier, you call attribute, need be explained. And so to serves to leave it open as to whether I read the book or not. To read or not to read, that is the only relevant question. In which case it is a modifier because it points to a conditional. The only justification for analyzing read, mind you, not to, as being infinitive would be to insinuate a condition either as a lack of obligation or as strong advice with little free will. Either way, to simply acts as a strategy for concision. And note that read, infinitive, is place whether or not we use to. Whether we analyze it as being attributive or adjunctive, or whatever you wish to call it, is beside the point. Compare the above examples with the following two sentences where relations are more definite. Clearly shows that the word choice is critical, not the syntactical analyses. She turned to see who it was. So she turned her head to see who it was who was making the noise, or that shifted the focus of our attention, which again is rightly so only clear in the context. Why use more words than necessary to communicate? And why analyze ad nauseum?